When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people conferred together against Jesus in order to bring about his death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate the governor. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You say so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he did not answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many accusations they make against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even to a single charge. So the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the festival, the governor was accustomed to release a prisoner for the crowd, anyone whom they wanted. At that time they had a notorious prisoner called Jesus Barabbas. So after they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release for you, Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who is called the Messiah?" For he realized that it was out of jealousy that they had handed him over. Whilst he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that innocent man, for today I have suffered a great deal because of a dream about him." Now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus killed. The governor again said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release for you?" And they said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "Then what should I do with Jesus who is called the Messiah?" All of them said, "Let him be crucified." Then he asked, "Why, what evil has he done?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified." So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took some water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See it yourselves." Then the people as a whole answered, "His blood be on us and on our children." So he released Barabbas for them, and after flogging Jesus, he handed him over to be crucified. Silence is a very powerful thing. In Matthew's account of Jesus' trial before Pilate, Jesus says very little indeed, and makes much use of silence. The accounts in the synoptic Gospels, that is, the Gospels of Matthew, Mark and Luke, lie in stark contrast to John's Gospel, where Jesus and Pilate enter into long, deep and intense theological discussion about the meaning of truth and the nature of Jesus' kingship. Instead, in each of Matthew, Mark and Luke, the only thing Jesus says is his short reply to Pilate's question, "Are you the king of the Jews?" To which Jesus gives the ambiguous answer, "You say so." Jesus' unhelpful answer, unhelpful to Pilate at least, reminds us of the question he asked Peter and the other disciples way back in Caesarea Philippi. "But who do you say that I am?" Back then, Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." This time the tables have been turned, and Jesus is no longer asking the question, but is being asked it by Pilate. Pilate asks the question, but he does not understand what it is that he is asking. Neither does he comprehend the enormity of the question itself. Because the question is an enormous one, and it is one that we are faced with more often than we may think. Faith asks that question of us all of the time. But how often do we take the time to really let ourselves be asked by Jesus, "But who do you say that I am?" It is a question that is worth reflecting on. It is a question we should have an answer to, even though it is a very difficult one to answer. The point is that this is not a question that Jesus can or should answer for us. It is only meaningful if we think about it and if we answer it. Both our faith and our beliefs are rooted in how we answer this short question. After answering or failing to answer Pilate's first question, Jesus says nothing again. Indeed, in Matthew's Gospel, Jesus does not say anything again at all until he gives his anguished cry of my God, why have you forsaken me?" immediately before his death. In Matthew's narrative of the Passion, Jesus is a silent victim of sacrifice, embodying the suffering servant prophesied in the book of Isaiah. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth, like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. It could be easy to see Jesus' silence as a silence of submissiveness and meekness. But the silence of the suffering servant, the silence of Jesus during his trial and execution, is a silence of defiance. In many ways, Jesus' silence sounds louder than all the noise around him. It is an active silence that casts a shadow on those making noise in the background, the soldiers with their weapons, the priests who are whipping the masses into a frenzy, and the crowds demanding Jesus' crucifixion. Jesus' silence is not passive submission, but a sign of resistance and steadfastness against the sinful world around him. It is the silence of a man preparing to sacrifice himself for us and for the sins of the whole world. Jesus' silence is full of meaning and full of power. Jesus' silence before Pilate challenges us to think about how we use our own words. In our world, which is full of words, if not too full of words, there are many times when silence is what is needed. Although there are times when, as Christians, we must speak out, Jesus shows us that there are times when what is needed is a silence of defiance, moments when our silence becomes the most powerful and the most meaningful statement we could ever make.